हेलो फ्रेंड्स, तोराना अकेडमी में आपका स्वागत है। हमने स्टार्ट किया 12th क्लास की एनसीईआरटी की केमिस्ट्री की वन शॉर्ट सीरीज, जिसमें हमने 15th यूनिट तक कंप्लीट किया है। हमारा 16th यूनिट है केमिस्ट्री इन एवरीडे लाइफ, जो कि हमारा लास्ट चैप्टर है एनसीईआरटी की 12th क्लास का केमिस्ट्री का। बाय नाउ यू हैव लर्न द बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ केमिस्ट्री एंड आल्सो रियलाइज्ड दैट इट इन्फ्लुएंसेस एवरी स्पेयर ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ. The principles of chemistry have been now used for the benefit of mankind. Think of cleanliness. The materials like soaps, detergents, mind look how towards the beautiful clothes immediately, and chemicals giving colors to them will come to your mind. Food materials, again a number of chemicals about which you have learnt in the previous unit, will remind us of medicines, again chemicals, explosiveness, fuels, rocket propellants, building and electronic materials, etc. are all chemicals. Chemistry has influenced our life so much that we do not even realize that ourselves are beautiful chemical creations, and all our activities are controlled by chemicals. In this unit, we shall learn the application of chemistry in three important and interesting areas, namely medicines, food materials, and cleaning agents. Drugs and their classification. Drugs and are chemicals of low molecular masses, 100 -100 to -500 U. These interact with macromolecular targets and produce a biological response. When the biological response is there are therapeutic and useful, these chemicals are called medicines and are used in diagnosis, prevention, and poisons. Now it takes taken in per doses higher than those recommended. Use of chemicals for therapeutic effect is called chemotherapy. Classification of drugs. Drugs can be classified mainly on criteria outlined as follows on the basis of pharmacological effect. And this classification is based on pharmacological effect of the drugs. It is useful for doctors because it provides them the whole range of drugs available for the treatment of a particular type of problem. For example, analgesics have a have pain killing effect. Antiseptic kill or arrest the growth of microorganisms on the basis of drug action. And it is based on the action of a drug on a particular biochemical processes. For example, all antihistamines inhibit the action of the compound histamine, which causes inflammation in the body. There are various ways in which action of histamines can be blocked. You will learn about this in section 16.3.2. On the basis of chemical structure, it is based on the chemical structure of the drug. Drugs classified in this way share common structural features and often have similar pharmacological activity. For example, sulfonamides have common structural feature given below. On the basis of molecular targets, drugs usually interact with biomolecules such as carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. These are called the target molecules or drugs. Target drugs possessing some common structural features may have the same mechanism of action on targets. The classification based on molecular targets is the most useful classification of medicinal chemists. Drug target interaction. Macromolecules of biological origin platform perform various functions in the body. For example, proteins, which perform the role of biological catalysts in the body, are called enzymes. Those which are crucial to carry polar molecules across the cell membrane. The nucleic acid have structural parts of the cell membrane. We shall explain the drug targets interact with the examples of enzymes and receptors. Enzymes are as drug targets. Catalytic action of enzymes. For understanding the interaction between the drug and an enzyme, it is important to know how to How do enzymes catalyze the reaction as section 5.2.4 in their catalytic activity? Enzymes perform two major functions. The first function of an enzyme is to hold the substrate of the for a chemical reaction. Active sites of enzymes hold the substrate molecule in the suitable position so that it can be attacked by the reagent. Reagent effectively substrates bind to the active site of the enzyme through a variety of interactions such as ionic bonding, hydrogen bonding, van der Waals interaction, or dipole-dipole interaction. The second function of an enzyme is to provide functional groups that will attack the substrate and carry out chemical reactions. Drug enzyme interaction. Drugs inhibit any of the above mentioned activities of enzymes. These can block the binding site of the enzyme and prevent the binding of substrate, or can inhibit the catalytic activity of the enzyme. Such drugs are called enzyme inhibitors. Drugs inhibit the attachment of substrate on active site of enzymes in two different ways. Drugs compete with the natural substrate for their attachment on the active sites of enzymes. Such drugs are called competitive inhibitors. Some drugs do not bind to the enzymes active site. This bind to the different site of enzymes, which is called allosteric site. This binding of inhibitor at allosteric site changes the shape of the active site in such a way that substrate can not recognize it. If the bond formed between an enzyme and an inhibitor is a strong covalent bond and cannot be broken easily, then the enzyme is blocked permanently. The body then degrades the enzyme inhibitors complex and synthesizes the new enzyme. Receptors as drugs targets. Receptors of are proteins that are crucial to body's communication process. Majority of these are embedded in cell membranes. Figure 16.4. Receptor proteins are embedded in the cell membrane and the source of the membrane and opens on the outside region of the coil membrane. Reception as drug targets. Receptors are proteins that are crucial to body's communication process. Majority of these are embedded in cell membrane. Figure 16.4. Receptor proteins are embedded in the cell membrane in such a way that their small parts processing active sites projects out of the surface of the membrane and opens on the outside region of the cell membrane. In the body message between two neurons, and that between neurons or two muscles is communicated through certain chemicals. These chemicals, known as chemical messengers, are received as the binding sites of receptor proteins to accommodate a messenger shape of the as a receptor site charges. This brings about the transfer of message into the cell. Thus, chemical messengers gives a message to the cell without entering the cell. First receptor, second shape of the receptor, third receptor regains structure again the removal of chemical messengers. Figure 16.5. There are the large number of different receptors in the body that interact with different chemical messengers. They are these receptors show selectivity of for one chemical messenger over the other because their binding sites have different shape, structure, and amino acid composition. Drugs that bind to the receptor site and inhibit its natural function are called antagonistic. These are useful when blocking of message is required. There are other types of drugs that mimic the natural messenger by switching by on the receptor. These are called agonistics. Now, these are useful when there is lack of natural chemical messenger. Therapeutic action on of different classes of drugs, antacids. Overproduction of acid in the stomach causes irritation, and pain. In several cases, ulcers are developed in the stomach. Until 1970, only treatment for active acidity was administration of antacids. Until 1970, only treatment for acidity was administration of antacids such as sodium hydrogen carbonate or the mixture of aluminium and magnesium hydroxide. However, excessive hydrogen carbonate can make the stomach alkaline and trigger the production of even more acid. Metal hydroxides are better and alternatives because of being insoluble. These do not increase the pH of above neutrality. These treatments control only symptoms and not the cause. Therefore, with these metal salts, the patients cannot be treated easily. In advanced stages, ulcers become life threatening. Threatening, and its only treatment is a removal of the affected part of the stomach. A measure of breakthrough in the treatment of hyperacidity came through the discovery according to which a chemical histamine stimulates the secretion of protein pepsin pepsin and hydrochloric acid in the stomach. The drug chymotrypsin was designed. The drug chymotrypsin was designed to prevent the interaction of histamine with the receptors present in the stomach wall. This resulted of so much that it remained the largest selling drug in the world until another drug, renilitin Zentac, was discovered. Antihistamines. Histamine is a potent vasodilator. It has various functions. It contracts the smooth muscles in the bronchi and gut, or it relaxes other muscles such as those in the walls of the blood vessels. Histamine is also responsible for the nasal congestion associated with common cold and allergic response to pollen. Synthetic drugs, bromophenamine, dimepap, and tifendine, Selden act as antihistamine. They interfere with the natural action of histamine by competing with histamine for binding sites of receptor where histamine exerts in its effect. And now the question that arises is why do above mentioned antihistamines not affect the sexual secretion of acid in stomach? The reason is that anti-allergic and antacid drugs work on different receptors. Neurologically active drugs, tranquilizers, and analgesics are neurologically active drugs. These affect the message transfer mechanism from the nerve to receptor. Tranquilizers are the class of chemical compounds used for the treatment of stress and mild or even severe mental diseases. There's and anxiety, stress, irritability, and excitement by inducing a sense of well-being. They form an essential component of sleeping pills. There are various types of tranquilizers. They function by different neurotransmitters and that plays role of mood changes. If the level of the noradrenaline is low for some reason, now then the signal sending activity becomes low and the person suffers from depression. In such situations, depressant drugs are required. These drugs inhibit the enzymes which catalyze the degradation of noradrenaline. If the enzyme is inhibited, this important neurotransmitter is slowly metabolized and can activate its receptor for longer periods of time, thus contracting the effect of depression, pronized and phenaclazine are two such drugs. Two tranquilizers, namely chloride zepoxide and meprobamate, are relatively mild tranquilizers suitable for relieving pain tension. Equanil is used in controlling depression and hypertension. Derivatives of barbituric acid was veronal, methyl, nembutal, luminal, and second signal is constitute an important class of tranquilizers. These derivatives are called barbiturates. Barbiturates are hypnotic, that is sleep producing agent. Some other substances used as tranquilizers are Valium, Valium and serotonin. Analgesic. Analgesics reduce the or abolish pain without causing impairment of consciousness, mental confusion, incoordination, or paralysis, or some other disturbances or of nervous system. These are classified as follows: non-narcotic narcotic drugs, non-narcotic analgesics, aspirin and paracetamol belong to the class of non-narcotic and analgesics. Aspirin is the most familiar example. Aspirin inhibits the synthesis of chemicals is known as prostaglandins, now which stimulates inflammation in the tissue and cause pain. These drugs are effective in relieving skeletal pain, such as that due to arthritis. These drugs have many other effects, such as reducing fever, antibiotic, and preventing platelets coagulation because of its anti-blood clotting action. Aspirin finds use in prevention of heart attacks, narcotic analgesics, morphine, and many of its homologs when administered in medicinal doses, relieve pain and produce sleep. In poisonous doses, this produce stupor, coma, convulsions, and ultimately death. Morphine narcotics are sometimes referred to as opiates, since they are obtained from the opium or poppy. These analgesics are chiefly used for the relief of postoperative pain, cardiac pain, and pain of terminal cancer, and in childbirth. Antimicrobials. Disease in human beings and animals may be caused by a variety of microorganisms such as bacteria, virus, fungi, and other pathogens. An antimicrobial tends to destroy, prevent development of, inhibit the pathogenic action of microbes such as bacteria, antibacterial drugs, fungi, antifungal agents, virus, antiviral agents, or other anti-parasite, parasitic drugs, selectively antibiotics, antiseptics, and disinfectants are antimicrobial drugs. Antibiotics. Antibiotics are used as drugs to treat infections because of their lose toxicity of humans and animals. Initially, antibiotics were classified as chemical substances produced by microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and some molds that inhibit the growth of even destroy microorganisms. The development of synthetic methods has helped in synthesizing some of the compounds that were originally discovered as products of microorganisms. Also, some purely synthetic compounds have antibacterial activity, and therefore definition of antibiotic have been modified. An antibiotic now refers to a substance produced now wholly or partly by chemical synthesis, which in low concentrations inhibits the growth of destroys microorganisms by intervening in their metabolic processes. The search of chemicals that would adversely affect invading bacteria but not the host began in the 19th century. Paul Ehrlich, a German bacteriologist, conceived this idea. He investigated ars- arsenic based on structures in order to produce less toxic substances for the treatment of syphilis. He developed other medicines, arfenamine 1908, for the discovery. It was the first effective treatment discovered for syphilis. Now, although salvarsan and there is toxic to human beings. Now, it affect the on the bactericidal, bacteriostatic, anti-fertility drugs, chemicals in food, artificial sweetening agents, food preservations, antioxidants in food, cleanings agents, soaps, synthetic detergents, and summary. तो start करते हैं summary. Chemistry is essentially the study of materials and the development of new materials for the betterment of humanity. The drug is a chemical agent which affects human metabolism and provides a cure from ailment. If taken in doses higher than recommended, this may have a poisonous effect. The use of chemicals for therapeutic effect is called chemotherapy. Drugs usually interact with biological macromolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. These are called target or molecules. Drugs are designed to interact with specific targets so that these have the least chance of affecting other targets. Now, this minimizes the side of effects of and localizes the action of the drug chemistry from various infections, disease, realizing mental stress, etc. The drugs like analgesics, antibiotics, antiseptics, disinfectants, infectants, antacids, and tranquilizers are used for specific purpose to check the population explosion. Anti-fertility drugs have also become prominent in our life. Food additives such as preservatives, sweetening agents, flavors, antioxidants, edible colors, and nutritional supplements are added to their food to make it attractive, palatable, and add nutritive value. Preservatives are added to the food to prevent spoilage due to microbial growth. Artificial sweeteners are used by those who need to check the calorie intake, non-diabetic, and want to avoid taking sucrose. These days detergents are much in vogue and get preference over soaps because they work even in hard water. Synthetic detergents are classified into three main three main categories, namely uh, anionic, cationic, and non-ionic, and each category has its specific uses. Detergents with straight chain of hydrocarbons are preferred over the branched chain has the lather uh, are non-biodegradable and consequently cause environmental pollution. केमिस्ट्री इन एवरीडे लाइफ यहाँ पर ख़त्म होता है. केमिस्ट्री इन एवरीडे लाइफ में हमने पहले से देखा ड्रग्स एंड देयर classification of drugs target interaction, enzymes as drug targets, receptors as drug targets, therapeutic action of different classes of drugs, antacids, antihistamines, neurologically active drugs, analgesics, antimicrobials, anti-fertility drugs, chemicals in food, artificial sweetening agents, food preservatives, antioxidants in food, cleaning agents, soaps, synthetic detergents एंड समरी। सो यहाँ पर ख़त्म होता है हमारा केमिस्ट्री इन एवरीडे लाइफ, जो कि लास्ट चैप्टर था हमारे 12th क्लास के एनसीईआरटी की केमिस्ट्री का। तो प्लीज़ लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग।